Can marketing be a force for good in the world? This is the question at the heart of my discussion with Jay Mandel, this week's guest on the DesuckifyWork Podcast. On the surface, the question sounds ridiculous. Marketing a force for good? That's crazy. It's built on deception, manipulation, and is single-handedly responsible for the proliferation of influencers in our lives. Screw you, marketing. But Jay has a different take, and he's creating a movement to remake marketing into something rooted in trust, transparency, and accountability. The Marketing Accountability Council is the home for his movement, and it's growing every day because it turns out lots of people who work in marketing are tired of the bullshit. They want to do better. And Jay and I talk about what better might look like during our conversation. Brands that actually live up to their stated values. Employees who feel empowered to question what's always been done. Companies that recognize the impact of their actions far outweighs the influence of their words. This is just one conversation of many that need to happen to bring Jay's vision to life. And the good news is he's having them every week with a growing community of folks who share his excitement for this project. Each one showing up with passion, purpose, and possibility. I can't think of a better way to desuckify work than that. Okay, Jay Mandel, welcome to the DesuckifyWork Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you here, Jay. I know we've known each other for a while now. You are my coach. We've collaborated on some projects. We have talked about solving all of the ills of the worlds of marketing and advertising and work in general. So now we'll get a chance to dive in it here in front of some listeners. Why don't you take a moment and tell everybody who you are, what do you do for work and how you came to be doing it?
Sure. Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Jay Mandel. I go by Your Brand Coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been Your Brand Coach for 6 years after a long 20-year career in the corporate world, working for companies like MasterCard and IBM.
Mm-hmm.
And after I left corporate America, I defined my 3 core values: candor, curiosity, and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And those 3 core values have guided every decision I've made since. And, in the time of the pandemic when we met, I was doing a lot of individual coaching, and I helped every one of my clients to define their core values, which have guided them in their journeys. And since then, I've taken the practice to go beyond individuals to help individuals that work at companies to excel for their companies. And I wrote a book, Brand Strategy in 3 Steps.
Awesome.
I decided to bring a prop to this podcast.
Always. Yeah, we'll get into that.
And that book documents my methodology, whether I work with an individual or a company. And the 3 steps of Brand Strategy in 3 Steps are identity. So understanding who you are as an individual and how you're going to contribute to whatever it is you're going to do, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee at a company. Intention is how are you going to take your identity and make a promise that you can keep as an individual and as a company.
Yeah.
And implementation is the important part that a lot of us forget about as marketers, because it actually has to work and we have to be accountable for it.
Yeah, that's scary. I don't want that.
Yes, you don't want accountability. So speaking of accountability, the last chapter of the book said you need a movement.
Yeah.
A movement is bigger than a campaign. And when I finished the book, I didn't know what my movement was.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the end of last year, the beginning of this year, I came back from a beautiful vacation/trip in Barbados, my girlfriend, and it was a rough week. Like I was getting hit from left, right. And I scrolled through my Instagram. I scrolled through my 5 TikTok channels, and I started looking and seeing a theme. And I realized that marketing and marketing accountability were something that I consistently talked about over and over and over again. And I also realized that a lot of my friends were talking about it. And we can get into marketing accountability little bit later, but the idea
Mhm.
that we as marketers should be accountable for our role
Mhm.
in the deception of the American people.
Yeah.
So I realized that that was something that I was already talking about, and I decided to make that my movement.
Nice.
So then I fast forward to the first day I met you, TJ,
Hmm.
in person. We had been
Yeah.
talking for years, and I arrived at the conference, the B2B Marketing Exchange in Phoenix, Arizona,
Hmm.
and I delivered a keynote. And it turns out that there were a few people that connected with this idea.
Yeah.
We noticed it from the whoop whoops in the crowd.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, people were engaged. I was sitting there and I just remember, first of all, it was a wonderful talk. I mean, you delivered it really well, and I think your points were really resonant to what we're talking about in terms of accountability. But the number of people who you'd speak and then you'd have something on your thing and they're raising their iPads and taking the snapshots, like it was it was happening frequently. And I was like, wow, this is cool. He's got him.
Yeah, I felt really, really good. And so after that moment, you were there, and we did some impromptu interviews. And
Hmm.
um, the two people that we connected with right after that have been instrumental
Hmm.
in forming of the group, as have you, in
Hmm.
advising me. And we started meeting, and I now have about 15 to 20 people that meet on Friday afternoons, every Friday for the most part,
Hmm.
to discuss this. And we are creating, actually, we have a pretty strong draft of a manifesto, which I shared with you a couple
Hmm.
days ago.
Hmm.
And I attribute you as being the manifesto king, because we've certainly done a few of those in our
Done a
day.
few. Yeah.
And it seems like we are getting to the core of
Hmm.
the issue.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to taking that manifesto, bringing it to the world, and also defining a model
Hmm.
by which this type of community can have impact on the field that we know and love,
Hmm.
marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get into all of that, Jay. I think, the thing that stood out initially for me was just that you charged the readers of your book and the marketers to say you need to have a movement, something more than a campaign. Um, and then you sort of said, well, I'm going to embrace that and I'm going to have a movement. So you kind of walk the walk there. And I think it'll be interesting to explore maybe some examples of folks who have movements, and if they feel aligned with your movement, we can get into that in a little bit. I think before we dive into the specifics of what you're doing, I'd love to get a little snapshot of how you're feeling, talking to all these people. My show here is called DesuckifyWork, and I always like to kind of take the temperature. Like, what are people noticing out there? So when you talk to people, and when you're observing and you're on LinkedIn, if you were to rate the state of work right now on a suck meter from completely wonderful to sucks the worst, where do you think it is right now?
5 out of 10.
Yeah. What's not keeping it from being great?
Money,
Hmm.
power, and respect. No, just kidding. That's the lots. Money, power, respect. No, but truly, actually, those all actually have to do with it. It maybe not in that order,
Yeah.
but the abundance of money in the world today,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the ability for companies to act on and implement strategic ideas
Mm-hmm.
seems to have fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of what we call tricks and cheap tactics
Mm-hmm.
in marketing of companies that used to stand for something a lot more.
Yeah.
And with layoffs, you have all these movements I don't need work,
Mm-hmm.
or like quiet quitting, and then
Yeah.
there's all these variations of that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed is that people now, who are employed to do what they studied and what they love, I don't know if there's an appetite. And I'm just talking about marketing and marketers right now,
Yeah.
but I think it applies across. I don't think there's an appetite to really invest due to the uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
around, will there be enough money
Mm-hmm.
to build a brand? Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what's, and the other thing is there's an uncertainty around traditional working
Mm-hmm.
at an office, at an agency, at a
Mm-hmm.
big corporation versus the bold move that you made, TJ, when you
Mm-hmm.
decided to be an independent.
Yeah.
And I know you and I are involved in several initiatives and companies and things that
Mhm.
we work on together that
Yeah.
are really cool, but they don't necessarily make up a living. Uh,
Yeah.
and so there has to be a shift, where talented people can make contributions that
Mm-hmm.
are meaningful, and then they get compensated fairly for it. And what I'm finding is that many people that are my age,
Mm-hmm.
46 years old, or older, or even slightly younger,
Mm-hmm.
you look at a job board, and the job boards are saying you want to be the director of marketing, will pay you between 90 and $115,000. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
the director of marketing, like what
Right.
do you think is going to happen here? Or even fractional. I wrote an article about this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
If the marketer doesn't have a seat at the table and they're a paid employee that gets 401k and all that kind of stuff, why do
Mm-hmm.
you think a fractional CMO is going to have the impact
Mm.
that you need to have? So
That's
there's a
interesting.
lot of, yeah, there's a lot of like transitional stuff that's happening that will be reconciled over many, many years, but we're
Mm-hmm.
living through it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, as you say, the fractional thing, because I'm a fan of the idea because I think it creates more opportunity for more people, including folks who are in that, let's just say the 40 plus who want to exit sort of the traditional corporate rat race and want to build more of a portfolio career. If part of that was fractional, that sounds kind of interesting to me, but your point is well taken. And I think it speaks to the larger point of people want to be engaged, they want to be immersed, and they want to be trusted to bring all of what they can to the workplace, whether they're engaged as a contractor or a consultant or a full time employee. The ability to fully immerse yourself in the work and be a trusted partner is important. And I think at all levels, people are feeling a disconnect there, right? Whether
It
you're
comes down to,
fractional, full time, whatever, it's like people are showing up at work and going, I'm not sure that anything I do is it being listened to, acknowledged, and therefore not having an impact. And so mostly I'm just sort of moving papers around on the desk, so to speak. Are
comes
you
down to two
noticing
words.
that?
Two words: mutual respect.
Yeah.
As a marketer, I have decided that I'm going to vet my clients a lot more than I have in the past.
Mm,
Just because someone thinks they need marketing
mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that they're ready to do the kind of marketing that I do. I'm
Right.
not a tactical marketer. I am not a magician. I am not going to get you results in a week or a month. I'm not going to give you 600 leads that I know are garbage.
Yeah.
I am going to deliver a strategic plan that aligns with what I wrote in my book.
Mm-hmm.
I do that every time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to not do it for you. I'm going to do it with you.
Mm.
So it's a coaching methodology to marketing.
Yeah.
And if you, as a marketer, whether you're a marketer that works for a big company or a marketer that or even a business owner that needs marketing,
Mm-hmm.
can't really commit to yourself, not to me, to
Mm-hmm.
yourself,
Yeah.
that you're going to do what modern day purposeful emotional marketing requires, then we're
Mm-hmm.
probably not a fit. If you
Yeah.
have a closed mindset, or there's a fixed mindset, we'll call it, uh,
Mm-hmm.
where things are black or white, um,
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to be a fit. If
Yeah.
you have a growth mindset, and these are all concepts that I talk about all the time,
Mm-hmm.
then we have a chance, and we can
Yeah.
work together, build something great, and we have that trust, and I want to feel like I'm part of your team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just the way it needs to be, because if you don't do that, then it lasts a few months, and
Mm-hmm.
then you know that story.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think, or maybe I hope, but I do think that the approach that you're outlining and this idea of a little bit more of a coaching methodology, working with, really digging in together rather than me, you're sort of sitting over here, doing the magic and then going,
Yes.
ta-da. It's like, no, you're working together. I think that certainly invites the possibility of really having a seat at the table more than, being somewhere over there and just revealing your stuff, because I think it necessitates all in from
And this
everybody.
is this is not to say that this is for all marketing. Like,
Yeah.
SEO doesn't have to be
Sure.
so involved. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
the other thing, and this is my hope through the Marketing Accountability Council, is I now have um, all these individuals that have unique and differentiated talents,
Mm-hmm.
are ready, willing, and able to work on strategy and tactical implementation. And I think that I was just on a podcast the other day for Martech,
Mm-hmm.
and I write a column for them. And when I was on that podcast, they were asking, is B2B, um, what's happening with B2B? Do we need to reinvent B2B? And I,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if B2B ever had anything, but what B2B had as a discipline
Mm-hmm.
was this idea that download the white paper. Let's measure the ROI on how many people downloaded the white paper. Let's
Mm-hmm.
forget about the fact that no one read the white paper, right?
Right.
Let's forget about the fact that we're spamming them and sending them 7 emails after they download the thing, or sending salespeople to just like flank them and
Mm-hmm.
make them feel the pressure to buy something that they don't even have the authority in the organization to buy.
Right.
What if you created a musical? What if you focused, and the reason I say musicals, I have a friend in the group who Jake, who
Mm-hmm.
wrote ROI the musical, and it's funny and it's cute and it's a great idea. And I look at B2B companies and I look at showing a dashboard
Mm-hmm.
as their homepage, or showing some generic stocky image of an individual, not
Yeah.
really paying attention to the message. And then hitting them with there's nothing wrong with HubSpot. I love HubSpot, but all the
Mm-hmm.
tools and techniques.
Sure.
That is not the way to command attention. If B2B companies, for example, and B2C companies do a lot better of this, but they
Yeah.
focus more on the message
Mm-hmm.
and the delivery of the message with creativity
Mm-hmm.
at,
Yeah.
at the core.
Mm-hmm.
And measuring, of course, you're going to measure,
Yeah.
but let's not box ourselves in so much as marketers. And that brings up another thing, which is this whole idea that there are dozens and dozens of bad actors, we'll call them marketers, who are
Mm-hmm.
advertising things like, "Give me 30 seconds and I'll give you a logo,"
Yeah.
right? Or
Mm-hmm.
let's take your content and we'll run it through AI, and you'll have 5 minutes and we'll have 30 days of content.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that, and it could potentially work in some way if you have a good message that
Right.
you put into the AI.
Well, yeah,
You have
exactly.
a baseline of creativity that was
Mm-hmm.
designed by someone that is understanding your audience
Mm-hmm.
and understanding yourself.
Yeah.
But like these ideas that people that don't understand marketing could use these off-the-shelf tools that just crank garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
That's pollution. And that's why we, as a profession, have a
Mm-hmm.
bad reputation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, you mentioned that term mutual respect before, and I can hear it on both sides a little bit. I think from a B2B marketer, I think there's a little bit of a lack of respect for the end consumer. I think people in B2B often market to the B, the business. They think about, I'm marketing to it. It's like, you're marketing to people who work in a business. So think about them that way, treat them that way. You're a human. How would you like to be on the receiving end of what you do? And then on the flip side, marketers who are quick to engage in the quick and easy stuff, they're not necessarily really respecting their audience all that well either. Certainly, if they haven't done the deep dive work to figure out who their audience is, what their audience really wants and needs from the world, and how this particular company can actually supply that. So I think you're seeing a lack of respect on both ends in different areas, and I think it ultimately probably is underlying why you're starting this marketing accountability council. And one of the things I like about this, I mean, I like pretty much everything about it, but I think the boldness of it is needed because I think the problem warrants it. But you have this mission to transform marketing into a force for good in the world. And I'm gonna play the role of semi-devil's advocate here, who's gonna be like, is that even possible? Can it
Well,
really?
I mean, that's an interesting question. And by the way, I don't necessarily call that the mission of the organization. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, in the manifesto, we put that in, and the team is actively debating, can it be a force for good in the world? It
Mm-hmm.
literally, I know where you got that from, and
Yeah.
I literally have changed it slightly. And we're having a debate about two things on Friday in the group. So if you want to understand what it's like to be a part of the group,
Yeah.
two things we're going to debate is one, can it be a force for good in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Or should we focus more on doing well and doing good, which is a different idea, meaning you can profit while doing good things for good people.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we're going to ask and discuss and reflect in our manifesto
Mm-hmm.
is it possible that marketing never had a good reputation? Like, I want to go through history back to the days of Bernays,
Mm-hmm.
and he's the one that did the parade float, and he called cigarettes the whatever, the torch of freedom.
Yeah.
Um, and he was definitely working with the tobacco companies and doing whatever he had to do. It was a different time. But my
Mm-hmm.
question for you, I'm gonna ask you a question, TJ.
Sure.
Do you ever believe that marketing had a good reputation?
I think it's always had at best a mixed reputation. I think, at its worst, it's some of what you're talking about, that very propaganda-ish kind of vibe that it's had. I think at its best, certainly when I think about it from the advertising portion of it, there are certainly brands that feel like they've used their power as marketers in a way that is at least trying to bring good into the world. Whether
I agree.
that's and those are usually the companies that at least have a vision for who they want to be, why they exist. You talk about Simon Sinek and Find Your Why, and the companies that all kind of rally around that. Like, I think that's part of it. Is you have a reason beyond just sort of wanting to move product. You have something guiding you. That doesn't mean even the best marketers are deeply flawed because they're filled with humans, right? I mean, you could look at somebody like Apple and say, like, there's a lot of good that comes out of their marketing that supports creativity and people who are bold in their thinking. It's probably inspired a lot of people to take leaps that they maybe haven't made. There's also some business practices that Apple has had over the years that you could absolutely like tear down. So it's rare that a company is perfect, but if you look at marketing, I think it's at its best when it's trying to move humanity forward in some way. There's some reason behind the products they're selling, and ideally, and this is I think part of the things you guys are debating, if you're going to stand and say we believe we're doing good in the world, then you have to at least try to do good in the world all the way down. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, but please try.
That's totally true. And so that brings up all the things that we're seeing day in, day out, the things that I mentioned in the keynote, shrinkflation. We're seeing, I have to say, my girlfriend likes watching these Dick Wolf FBI type TV shows. And there's a network called Ion that literally shows 24 hours of the same show.
I don't.
I'm like, wow, that's a good job if you're head of programming at Ion.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
So we're watching this, and I'm looking at the claims that are made by companies. So Domino's says last night in an ad, they say, we want to encourage you to tip our drivers because they work hard and this and that. So if you put in a tip of $3 or more before the order while the order is placed,
right,
we will give you a coupon for $3 for your next pizza that has to be used within the next week. It's like, okay, or what? I don't know. Like, listen, Domino's, don't come after me. I think it's a great idea, but if it's truly giving me $3, the question I would have for Domino's is, can I use it with other promotions? Can I use it? Over the next year, maybe. Like, I understand limits and stuff like that, but what I'm saying is when you truly give something to someone, you need to really walk the walk and talk the talk. And, when these companies come up with these things that appear to be good until the point that you go to your bill and you see that, oh, I signed up and I thought I was signing up for something that was $100, but it ended up being $150 with all these fees. Like, what is the role of a company to be transparent and honest and subscription traps? There are websites out there that literally list all of the most significant companies in the world and how they send you in circles in order to try and unsubscribe.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, I don't know. These are all things that we're all experiencing as consumers day in and day out. And the question becomes, what role does a company have to just be transparent or remotely transparent or just good? Honest? Like, let's not try and trick people. Let's give them value. Let's earn their trust because we've given them value consistently. And then let's let them enjoy what we have on their terms without pestering them.
Yeah. It sounds like, on some level to me, it sounds so easy. It's like, well, you could do that tomorrow. But any company, Domino's could wake up tomorrow and say, all right, I'm going to do that. And again, not picking at you, Domino's, because everybody does this.
Yeah.
But I think your point is well taken. And I think it almost becomes worse if you're couching your messaging around, we are helping the world and we want to pay our people, like we want our people to get their tips and we want people to have a good livelihood. And you're now tapping into people's sort of natural well of empathy, that everybody wants to engage with at some point. And then you're abusing it.
Yeah. And again, you're right. I'm not accusing Domino's of anything. Domino's is great. I'll order Domino's. I love Domino's. Sure. Actually, I live in New York, so I have to be careful.
You've got better options.
But I have other options. But when I'm with my kids, I'll order Domino's.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you're right. Yeah, that's what happens. And so if a company benefits from delivering a message like that to people that aren't paying attention, and
Mm-hmm.
then on the other side of the house, there's all these sort of controversial things that people are up at arms about. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of wrong to just put it out there that this is the company you are when you're
Mm-hmm.
really not.
Yeah. So you've got this marketing accountability council, got this growing team of people who are excited to engage. If you're working, let's say you engaged with a company, and I'm not going to say Domino's, we'll just call it company X, whatever, and they're doing some good and they're doing some not so good. What How do you engage with them? How do you envision that happening in a way where they can see the benefit of being transparent and being at least on the good side of the good bad equation? Whether or not they're a force for good or not, that's maybe debatable, but like they're winning way more than they're losing on that question of whether they're doing good.
Yeah,
How does that happen, and what's the benefit to the brand for taking
yeah.
it on?
Well, you could sleep at night.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a benefit. And
sure.
TJ, I don't have it all figured out. We don't have it all figured out, but
Mm-hmm.
we have members who work at these corporations. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are my favorite
Yeah.
because they're experiencing these things, and I think that if they earn the trust of their leadership, I'd like
Mm-hmm.
to start, as Drake says, well, it's not from the bottom, but start from the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
start from the people that are in the thick of it, working
Mm-hmm.
through. And I think that it could come from something that will not happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we, as an organization, took the language of marketing that we
Mm-hmm.
speak, the tools that we use,
Mm-hmm.
the tactics that we use, the way we come up with strategy. And we
Mm-hmm.
sort of said, okay, there's some good stuff here, but
Mm-hmm.
what if we invented new paradigms? Sorry for the buzzword.
It's all right.
New paradigms for how we look at things.
Mm.
So one of the members of the group, his name is Colt.
Mm-hmm.
He works for a company called Scrappy AF, which is a really fun name.
Yep.
He came up with this idea of the peak of intrigue.
Mm.
And the peak of intrigue basically says that it's the marketer's job to get a potential customer to the peak of intrigue. And there's so many applications, whether it be a micro application or a macro application of the peak of intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
Before the peak of intrigue, there's something called apathetic dismissal, which
Mm-hmm.
means I don't care enough to pay attention.
Yep.
And then after the peak of intrigue would be prejudice dismissal, which means that you bugged me so much
Mm-hmm.
that not only am I gonna dismiss this idea, but I'll do it with prejudice, and I might even tell a few people that you ticked
Yeah.
me off so much.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the marketing construct was not measured by product, price, place, promotion, this unrealistic idea that we're in the sessions with the experts that are calculating with fancy statistics how to charge. Like
Mm-hmm.
marketers are typically handed things and say it costs $9.99 or it
Right.
costs $10 and the marketer makes it $9.99.
Right.
But like we're typically handed something. But what if we were just responsible for getting people to the peak of intrigue and then handing it off to technology or sales or
Mm-hmm.
some other function that
Mm-hmm.
will really deliver on a promise without sabotaging the marketer. Now,
Yeah.
let's be real. I've been in these worlds where it's all out fight between marketing and PR. It's an
Mm-hmm.
all out fight between marketing and sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned from that. And I believe that if we even looked at things differently and said, and I don't even know what the answer is, but I do know that, again, it comes back to mutual respect. If you, as a marketer, reach out to a salesperson and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to do? And then you figure out if the peak of intrigue works for you and you modify it based on the current situation. There's a
Mm-hmm.
hell of a lot more of a chance that you're going to receive measurable outcomes together
Mm-hmm.
in partnership with each other, and you can incentivize each other too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where I think it gets particularly interesting when you're creating some kind of a process by which useful, fruitful conversations can happen between the various departments. I mean, you talk about marketing not having a seat at the table always. I think that can move you closer to the table by being somebody who is actively trying to engage with the different folks who are maybe already at the table and saying, I want to support you. I want to provide useful information, useful data, whatever it is, to make your job easier.
Yes.
And if that becomes more of the way marketing shows up, oh yeah, who wouldn't want you around more?
Right.
Rather than like, here's my bag of tricks. Sometimes it works. I don't know. But take it or leave it. And then sales is like, well, I don't know. You just ran a campaign for 2 years and I don't feel like I got any benefit from it.
Well, that's exactly it. And
Mhm.
then so when we think about like the campaigns that we're running, I mean, there's usually one of the things that, having empathy is critical, having
Mhm.
trust is critical. And the empathy that I have for the business owner or
Mhm.
the sponsor of the marketer who is
Mhm.
under pressure to deliver more for less,
Yeah.
um, they're looking at the marketers and saying, hey, you came in and you gave all these great ideas, but then the reality is that's why the third I is implementation. The reality is
Mhm.
that your implementation didn't result in the lift that we were
Mhm.
all hoping for.
Right.
We're not in a world where I can make a promise, but I can't make a promise that I am going to um, solve everything. If you have a product at a company that's
Mhm.
lousy, and I do everything in my power to sell it, and the community that bought the product says this product sucks,
Mhm.
that's a force that is much more credible than anything I'll put out from a company.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't mean that in this world that we have to rely. I mean, there's this whole thing called the influencer movement.
Mhm.
And the reality is that, that even got a bad name because, it went from, innocently recommending a product
Right.
to pay me $50,000 and I'll post about your product 3 times,
Mhm.
and you have no choice in what I post and
Right.
whether it does well or doesn't do well. But that doesn't matter. And so
Mhm.
when Kim Kardashian makes a post, that probably will work. But when some other influencer, maybe not either, maybe we'll
Yeah.
just lift her brand. But
Mhm.
when some other influencer posts it, it may not do anything for anyone. And so,
Mhm.
that's what happens. Have you noticed, TJ, that every few years we're talking about NFTs? I'm the NFT marketer, and then no one is talking about that anymore.
I
No
know.
one's talking about that. And there's always something that I watch my colleagues just sort of move to.
Mhm.
If you stick with the foundational strategic ideas of marketing, understanding who you are, understanding who your audience is, understanding their wants and needs and desires,
Mhm.
understanding that marketing isn't about just pushing something that is factual.
Yeah.
You need to talk about the facts, but you should also think about what will drive a person to make this a part of their lives.
Mhm.
That will win every time. And then you can't do it alone. And that's
Mhm.
why we see so many collectives
Yeah.
together.
Mhm.
Why do I call you every time I need a manifesto?
Right.
Because I know you're good at it,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
know there's a certain level that I could do from a copywriting perspective.
Mhm.
And then I'm looking for a seasoned creative director who has great experience and a good head on his shoulders and
Mm-hmm.
and loves cats.
Most importantly,
Yeah,
yes.
a person who is willing to express himself on, I'm going to stop with the flattery in a second, but I mean, the way you express yourself on LinkedIn is what I hire
Mm-hmm.
for these projects because I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I want people that are comfortable in their own skin that can show up and
Mm-hmm.
deliver without putting themselves into this box that doesn't allow them to be themselves.
Yeah. So much of this is like it's all like intertwined as you're saying this, and I think like you know the thing that shows up as you're starting to say some of this, like a lot of people who work in marketing and certainly in advertising, which is more my world, like they have this kind of love hate relationship with being in this space. They love that it's like creative and fun, and it's not sort of like the standard like corporate thing. It's got a little like juice to it, but there is this hate around the tackiness and the manipulation and the like am I doing good? I don't know if I am, like, and I think the more that the bad side of that equation continues, it it creates first of all, it drives out talent. I think it maybe attracts the wrong kind of talent. So I'm thinking about the world of work and people wanting to, and when I think of your vision for the Marketing Accountability Council, I think it has the power to not only change marketing, but to remake what a marketing career looks like so that it can attract people who are genuinely interested in having a positive impact on the world. And it has the ability to potentially shake up this love hate paradigm that exists for a lot of people and go, no, like it can be love. Like, yeah, you've got to drive results and you've got to help, ultimately drive sales or whatever you're doing, but we don't have to be shady. We can be a different kind of person and therefore attract, like it has this ability to kind of feed itself by, with each incremental change, two or three more people who are more driven by what you're talking about come in, and two or three people who are more driven by the shadiness maybe drop out. Is that, does that connect for you? And is that maybe part of the vision that you are actually changing the face of marketing in terms of who actually exists within it?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I also hope that the people within marketing and the people that hire us can set realistic expectations.
Mm-hmm.
How much pressure does one feel when they hear, you're going to be measured by getting this many leads when
Mm-hmm.
this is not totally in your control?
Yeah.
And I'll ask you another question. Question number two, TJ. But here you go.
Yeah.
In building up Desuckify Work,
Mm-hmm.
you've gone from zero to, you have 30 something episodes
Mm-hmm.
and you have lots of great people. You're building up a network of people that you could call at any point in time because you built up a relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a metric. That's a win.
Yeah.
But like, is the win that you hit 50,000 people per post? The expectation that you're gonna, with every idea that you post, that you're gonna win. I
Mm-hmm.
know I know the posts that win that you post. I know the
Yeah.
posts that win that I post.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the expectation of some of the people that hire marketers are like, yeah, we're going to build a community and we're going to get to 50,000 members. And then they send $50 Amazon gift cards for people to join the community, and then no one participates.
Right.
These kinds of things will continually happen if we are holding ourselves to unrealistic expectations. To
Mm-hmm.
be honest, I'm very proud of my slow and steady growth of the Marketing Accountability Council. I'm proud of being
Mm-hmm.
transparent
Yeah.
about what we're doing, how we're doing it, when we're doing it. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
share our victories, and I'm going to share the points where we're feeling a little insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that more companies could stand to benefit from realizing that
Yeah.
potential instead of putting in these goals that just don't no one would be able to deliver on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the sort of challenges, I guess, of the sort of broader economic system we exist in, right? I think as a growing movement or a growing company, you're mostly responsible to yourself, and therefore, we can decide to be patient. And I think that's the right approach. I think, I care less about the one post that gets, 3 times as many likes or comments as I do about like continually like connecting with more people, whether that's through the podcast, through my posts, through whatever, and opening up the window of possibility to make an impact with people through the work I do. And I think as a business goal, that's pretty good. When you become, big corporation, publicly traded, this is where it gets a little trickier. And this is where in some ways, I have more hope for what you're doing, because I think there's more change to be made there, right? Meaning at a corporate level, I don't expect the Marketing Accountability Council to show up on, corporation A or B's door and change it like that. But you can theoretically, at least, start the same process of small movements, small incremental growth. It's not about the viral post or the viral moment. It's about, changing the way a company hires when it comes to marketing, and thinking about their certain skill sets and mindsets that they want to bring in, thinking about transparency and realizing the effect that less than ethical processes have on your business, and particularly long term, but maybe even in the short term. Like these little incremental moves will make a difference, but there is a certain amount of patience involved.
There certainly is. And I think we're still, and again, with my transparency, we're still debating back and forth from the perspective of who is our customer of the Marketing Accountability Council.
Yeah.
And I think, this could change, but the sweet spot may be the small to mid-sized company that doesn't have the big marketing department that needs the strategic marketing firepower, and has a little bit of a budget to support it. It might not be the most tremendous thing, but that might be a sweet spot for us. But I definitely do have aspirations to support corporations. And I do think that, another thing that I'd like to state is Mel, a guy I worked for at MasterCard, said that advertising should be a light breeze to support a great idea. And, if you post organically and no one cares about it, and then you think you're going to put money behind it and that's going to get you what you need. No, so as a marketer, we need to iterate. Let's post ideas. Let's see what works, what doesn't work. Let's refine those ideas, and let's put money behind ideas that we have a good indication will connect with our audience. And, so I think we need to shift. Another thing I'll say is a lot of your audience, people like you and I, who used to work in an advertising agency, used to work in corporate America. And you get hit in the face really hard when you leave. I certainly have.
Sure.
And the idea to think that you're going to just rely on your network and your reputation to bring in clients that are going to get you from zero to making $300,000 a year.
Right.
It's just not a realistic idea. The way that you have a fighting chance of doing this is doing what you and I are doing, which is waking up every day, sharing your ideas, your thoughts, documenting your ideas, writing a lot. I've been playing with Substack. I know you play with Substack. I love Substack. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But not just sharing static, sort of boring, factual stuff, but getting a little more vulnerable, showing your personality. And then finding people that like you, that will look to you and not necessarily hire you immediately. But if let's say someone listens to this podcast and says, oh, I remember what Jay said. And then 3 months from now, they want to join us in the council, or they want to hire
Mm-hmm.
me to do the kind of work that we've been discussing. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm open to that idea.
Mm-hmm.
But as an independent, you can't sell the way that others sell.
Yeah.
You cannot think that if you do a bunch of Facebook ads, and believe me, I've tried these things.
Yeah.
The Facebook ad out of the blue, I'm not going to earn trust with someone I don't know,
Yeah.
or even enough trust for them to sign up and have a conversation. The
Mm-hmm.
webinar that you plan, where you
Mm-hmm.
get 50 people to commit to showing up, and then 2 show up.
Mm-hmm.
This has happened. Oops, the balloons.
Yay.
Thanks, Apple. Yeah, I don't know why that. And when I do it again, it doesn't happen. I don't. Oh,
Yeah.
there it
Oh,
is.
there you go. You just have to
Okay.
hold it up for long enough.
Yeah, hold it there long enough. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, it's about earning trust. It's
Yeah.
about being consistent. It's
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times, TJ, I know as you transition from full-time, employment,
Mm-hmm.
to your current role, there's also something to be said. Now, I'm not telling everyone that they need to leave
Yeah.
their role in order to do something entrepreneurial. You should start as a passion project that
Mm-hmm.
has no, you don't need to make money fast.
Right.
But if you can't commit to it fully,
Mm-hmm.
it's only going to go so far.
Yeah. I think that's true. And I think as you said that, I thought, well, for somebody who's listening, who's, intrigued, they're like, I like this idea of a different way of thinking about marketing. I work in marketing right now, and I feel a little bit, dissatisfied with the track it's taking. It's not what I thought it would be. It's not what I want it to be. I think there are options. I think for somebody who's at that point in life where they are ready to make a leap and start their own thing, or join up with a few other folks and start their own thing, or, create a movement, like, please do, because I think we need more of that. But there is also the, like, you work in a 10-person, 100-person, 1,000-person, 100,000-person company, like, get curious to see if there's opportunities. It could be within one small team. You're in some big company,
entrepreneurship.
Create that mindset wherever you are. And then if you bump up against it and keep bumping up against it, then figure out where your next opportunity is. But opportunity sits in more places than you might think. And what I found over my career is it's really surprisingly responded well to when you offer up new ways of doing things. Though you'll find other people who are maybe feeling a little bit of what you're feeling, and they're like, yeah, let's try that. It might be a little experiment, but it's the beginning of something. And I think, for anyone who wonders, like, how can I connect to a big, bold idea that's around, making marketing more accountable, there are so many ways. And I would recommend that folks connect with your group, because those are the conversations you guys are having, right? I mean, every Friday, you guys are talking about, like, can we go this big? What if I'm just over here and can I make an impact here? Like, those are the debates we need to have so that people are willing to make the experiments and see what works.
That's true. And, it's quite interesting, because I have a trickle of like 1 to 2 people per week are reaching out to me, having conversations. I'm meeting someone that you introduced me to tomorrow, and they're joining the group. Some of them are like, I'm all in, able to participate week after week. Some people attend 1 or 2 meetings and then they say, I'm too busy for this. And that's the other thing that's really important for people to know and understand. You can't overcommit. And I'm the biggest. I'm guilty of this as much as anyone. But if you got to pick your promises that you're going to make, and it's not a bad idea at the beginning of the year to set up objectives and key results for yourself. I do it every year, and think about what it is you're trying to do, and how you're going to do it, and how you're going to measure it. And if this fits within, and be flexible enough to experiment.
Yeah.
But if it fits in and you're enjoying the camaraderie. By the way, this thing is free. No one
Mhm.
has to pay to be a member. And
Right.
there's a tremendous upside from it because, if we end up doing work together,
Hmm.
we'll all profit and we'll all win.
Yeah.
But like, you got to just sort of be aware that if you want something, you're going to have to work for it, and you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days.
Hmm.
My One of my resolutions that I just made is to try and be as even as possible. I
Mm.
know you know this, like, day in and day out as a divorced dad, and all these things that I deal
Yeah.
with my children and stuff like that, and with all the experiences I have. If I sort of let it get to me,
Hmm.
it's going to affect my ability to support myself and support my family.
Yeah.
And so I want to be as even as possible, even when the bad things happen.
Mm. Well, I think that's a great resolution. I would love to know, what are you exploring in terms of helping yourself stay in that state?
Well, I have a supportive group of friends
Yeah.
now. I mean, so I basically built a group of people that I can call at any point in time and share what I have to say.
Hmm.
And I think the other thing I've done is I've eliminated most of the negativity and the users from my life.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a big part of it.
you and I have worked together enough to
Hmm.
know who was genuine and who was not.
Oh yeah.
And we've all experienced it where, someone comes in and they're like making all these promises, but you have this sort of pit of your stomach,
Hmm.
visceral reaction that says, yeah, I want to make that money, but I
Hmm.
don't want to do that because it just doesn't feel right. So
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to do is um, I'm trying to check myself before I wreck myself, but I'm also trusting and believing
Yeah.
that what I am doing, I'm doing for the right reasons. There will
Hmm.
be people that will say the folly's over.
Hmm.
Maybe these are people that you love and respect more than anyone. But
Hmm.
when someone says that to you,
Hmm.
that hurts
Yeah.
deeply.
Yeah.
And so when that happens, you just have to find the right supportive people
Hmm.
to confide in and trust and deliver
Yeah.
the promise and potential that you have.
Mm.
But at the same time, listen, if push comes to shove and I have to drive an Uber,
Right.
uh, I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. But no, if push comes to shove, and I have to do something
Gotta make
different,
money. Sometimes you
and I
gotta
got
make
to make
money.
money. I
Yeah.
also know that no one is looking at me and saying, "Oh my God, Jay was a failure
Right.
for having to do this." Listen, I would love if a like-minded organization
Mm-hmm.
that respected me and I respected them came to me and said, "Jay, we'd like you to be a full-time employee, and it's going to help you support your lifestyle, your family,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff." Because guess what? If I did that, the Marketing Accountability Council wouldn't go anywhere.
Right.
If I found the right employee, not the employee that's going to tell me you are not allowed to post on LinkedIn unless you blah 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 blah.
Right.
That's not the company I'm going to go work for.
Mm-hmm.
But if an opportunity came to me that was something that I believed I could have an impact, and someone that looked at me and said, "We need him because what he's doing is courageous,"
Mm-hmm.
I will very much consider that as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, so that's it. It's about a balancing act and
Mm-hmm.
doing what's right for what's important to you. And that's why let's go back to core values:
Mm-hmm.
candor, curiosity, collaboration. Those are the three
Yeah.
core values. And so that's the filter for evaluating any opportunity. That's the filter for the marketing campaigns that I do. I like to ask tough questions. I don't get bothered when someone challenges me. I'm pretty excited about the fact that not one person has come up to me and said, I believe that what you're doing with the Marketing Accountability Council is garbage. Like no one has said that this is not needed at this time.
Yeah.
And I'd love to meet someone that says that, and I wouldn't think anything less of them if they did, because when they say it, I'll just use that to filter into my thinking.
Well, yeah, and I think you're demonstrating, I think, the benefit of having a movement, something that you're deeply connected to, both in terms of when you talked about, I'm going to go work for somebody if they align with what I'm doing. You're helping people to know who you are. You're taking your values and you're expressing them through this council, and you're inviting people to go, if you are of a similar mindset in terms of the things you value in the world, join me. And that can be an employer, that can be a partner, a collaborator, anything. And I think you are then inviting people who disagree with you to actually help you by saying, well, here's the challenge I see with the Marketing Accountability Council.
It just makes it stronger.
Yeah. Like, thank you for giving me that perspective. Like, noted. And yeah, like that's something I want to pay attention to. Cause I think my hunch, you're not going to necessarily get a lot of people being like, that marketing's great. Like, I don't think anybody who works in the world of marketing or just business in general is going to say marketing doesn't need any help. Every part of the business world needs some help. I think what you're going to get is the skeptic, right? You're going to get, can you really make a difference? And I think what's wonderful about the way you've set it up as a community is there's a million different possibilities of making a difference. And the more people that join it, the more possibility, like it becomes more sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, the more people that connect to it and go, well, can it make a difference? Well, I don't know. Are you willing to try to have it make a difference? Because that's the only way it makes a difference.
I've gotten don't bite the hand that feeds you a couple times, which is a very valid concern. And I applaud the people for reaching out to me and sharing that with me.
Yeah.
But another thing that I'd like to share with you and your audience is this. Whether or not the Marketing Accountability Council changes the world or changes marketing or makes some people's lives better, it's a necessary part of the marketing equation, which is market research.
Yeah.
I am exploring tools, technologies, strategies, ideas that are directly translating into paid client engagements. The Marketing Accountability Council takes my vision, connects it with other people's vision, and it actually it's more powerful than Jay Mandel saying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when and I have hopes of there's a whole business plan in the works of what this will be and how it will be, and all that stuff will be published. But if you don't think I'm using what I've learned about Substack and the 50% engagement rates that we're getting to support many clients, and you've been on some of those calls, and if you don't think that I'm shifting a little bit of the way I look at LinkedIn based on my experiences, and there's an interesting tool that I shared with you yesterday. It's called Upside. I learned of it through David Berkowitz of Serial Marketers. And it's a very interesting tool that helps with the management of referrals. And I sent it to a bunch of people to try it out. And if it works, it's something that could be something that I advocate for as part of the solutions that I offer. And so it's lending a lot of opportunity. It's allowing me, to when I write for MarTech, that allows me to deliver messages of I'm not going to make all my MarTech articles about the Marketing Accountability Council, but certainly, these opportunities are all in my toolbox, as they say, and And if you keep that same toolbox from 3 years ago and think it's going to work,
Right.
I have news for you.
Yeah. And I think that is maybe the core of, how to create any kind of change. It is not simply willing it into existence. It's if you talk about the implementation part of it, and the implementation comes by trying shit. I mean, that's
Yes.
really what it is. It's just like, okay, I'm going to try this thing. This is aligned with our values and what we want. Let's try this. Is this helpful? No? Great. Move on. But it's much easier to sit back and go, it's impossible to change anything. And I think like you will never change anything if that's what you're doing. Obviously, things don't just change. There's people in there doing things to change it. So that's what I love about what you're doing. And whether the scale of that change is this or this, that still matters to me. Like if a bunch of people make change that's just this, that's still decent. Like even if it's changing like a few people in the group and making life better for them, that's still decent. So like I think it can be easy to get locked in a state of mind that says, I can't make the kind of impact that I think is needed. Therefore, I'm not even going to try. And what you're saying is like, yeah, we've got big dreams. Like, we're debating some pretty bold visions, but every action we take is potentially having some impact. And does it go all the way to there? Who knows? But it's still good, even if it doesn't. It's still making change, even if it's never achieving the mission of marketing is this beautiful force for good in the whole world.
It's true. And everything I do and everything I say, sometimes to my fault, is online.
Mm-hmm.
And no one can question not everything I do and everything I say. There are certain things that remain private from me, my family, and the people that I love. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that it's not a secret what I'm up to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not shy about sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you think about life and legacy, like, which is something that, when someone mentions that word, you tend to, perk up and like, yeah, what is it that I am working towards?
Yeah.
And whether or not these things, quote unquote, hit it big, I put a stake in the ground. I have a point of view. And I know that, for some people, working on something for 5 to 6 years, are like, when are you not gonna struggle?
Yeah.
And it's like, what's happening literally right before my eyes. I can feel it. A great conversation with a person that that I've worked with for several years. Right after this call, I earned his trust over the years, and I did some quality work for him and his company. And he's exploring with me a partnership around helping them to show up as thought leaders, and again, not doing it for them, doing it with them, and setting a year-long potentially contract that lays out, okay, we'll start small and we'll learn and we'll grow together. And we'll eventually realize that based on the fact that I've done that.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes, because I'm at the driver's seat of all of my stuff. If you outsource it to some agency and then they give some junior copywriter who ends up using AI something and doesn't reply to any comments and doesn't know what to say because they're not you, that's not building anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a really important point. The idea of building something. You talked about legacy and all that, which I think probably really shows up for people when you kind of crest over that 40 mark. I think, but I think it's worth, no matter where you are in life, having the idea that like, are you building something? Are you adding to something? Are you contributing and making an impact with what you do is a worthwhile lens with which to view the world. It may not totally hit you until a little later in life if you're younger, how important that might feel to you. But I think that's what I see in younger people is, and you may see this because you teach a lot of college students, like people are craving like being a part of something. like having their work be more than, you know, seemingly just shuffling papers around on the desk. Like it's the
Right.
idea that,
Yeah, the attitude towards work is changing right
mm-hmm,
before our eyes. Um, and people need to work harder to earn what our parents earned.
mm-hmm,
Um, just think back to, just how, people could, work in the post office and
yeah,
support a family in the 1950s or whatever it may be. It's like, people are hustling
yeah,
now and they
mm-hmm,
have to hustle um, and they're not reaping the benefits. You talk about, we don't have to get into all of the stuff that Scott Galloway is saying these days,
right,
but it is not the same world that,
mm-hmm,
we had a certain amount of years ago, and it's time for people to take control of their
yeah,
destiny
yeah,
and create a life and legacy that if someone looks at it and they say, you know what, the little engine that could, I'd rather be seen as the little engine that could
mm-hmm,
than seen as a person who just sort of just laid down or gave
mm-hmm.
up or just sort of accepted the status quo.
Yeah, I totally am in line with that for sure. Um, one question I like to ask as I'm starting to wrap things up here is, and you're sort of answering it, but maybe there's a chance to add a little more.
Are you
If
going
there
to have
was,
me make a sound now?
no, that's coming, but this will be if you could kind of wave a magic wand and create a sort of fully desuckified work world for people. What does that look like?
It looks like what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I want to do. I'm meeting with people that I want to be with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm delivering results that are meaningful to me and to my clients.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is I want to be fairly compensated,
Mm-hmm.
consistently compensated
Yeah.
for it. I don't want to have months where, I make up very little and months where I make a little bit more. I want
Mm-hmm.
to be more comfortable. I want to
Yeah.
be recognized as an expert in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Recognition is very important to me.
Yeah.
I want, like a conversation with a client. Like, I don't know why marketers always have to, give. And then people take, and then they think they're able to just implement
Mm-hmm.
what, I gave them, but then they realize they can't. I want
Right.
to be recognized for the value that I deliver. And I want, to form a group of people, which I just did. Isn't that great? What a great question, because the answer is I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we're in tumultuous economic times right now. We're in a time where no one's going to be buying a $500,000 content management system and implementing it. But
Mm-hmm.
when the time is right, the companies will be investing in things like that. They'll be
Mm-hmm.
redoing all these things. They'll need us.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do performative stuff. I want to do stuff that will make a difference. I
Yeah.
want to do higher level strategic work and be compensated for it, and then work with trusted partners who I
Mm-hmm.
know and trust. Well, trusted partners who I know and trust. That's basically, sorry, I just repeated
I
myself.
get it though.
Trusted people
Yeah.
and companies that align with the values and vision that I have.
Yeah. I mean, and why shouldn't you get that? I guess that's what I ultimately come down to. I think the more people who stand up and make a move towards that, the more likely it happens. The more that's the norm. Yeah, I'm going to stand up. I have values. I want to work with people who are aligned with them and do things that actually matter and make an impact. Like that's how norms change. Is enough people stand up and do that. So I think it's awesome that you're modeling a desuckified solution for people through what you're doing with the Mac, and I think that's awesome. I think when you think about that, I mean, does it make you want to make any kind of noise, any kind of sound
Listen, that just happens to be a noise I could do well. It's monkey.
effect?
Every so often when I live in the Bronx, every so
Yeah,
often when I go to the Bronx Zoo, I might
yeah,
do.
I love it.
And I was less comfortable with making my horse noise. So
Yeah, I understand. A horse noise is a little tougher. But I think regardless, I think what I love about the monkey noise is one, you like fully embraced it. And two, it sort of embodies the sort of positive energy of what you were just talking about. Like there's excitement and enthusiasm in a monkey sound that aligns with I'm trying to, create this desuckified reality for myself in the world of
I'm
work.
gonna do something else that I learned when I was in high school.
Please.
They had this motivational speaker, and he came in and he said, before you get on stage, before you do something, I want you to just breathe in and out. And I want you to lift your hands and go, confidence. That was a bad clap. Confidence. You do that, like make sure you're not near anyone.
Yeah,
like,
so you're not knocking them
don't
out.
go off to the side. Don't let anyone see you do that.
Yeah.
But there's something about that energy transmission. I feel it in my system that really has stuck with me. And I think making a noise like that or doing an confidence. We need to, you can't be wound up all the time. You need to just sort of let the energy flow.
Yeah, and I think what both of those things demonstrate is you're sort of getting just out of being in your head and you're sort of fully embodying yourself. Your whole body is taking part, and that actually creates a different energy, to your point. So I think that's awesome. Well, Jay, I think this has been a wonderful conversation. I'd love to have people be able to track you down wherever they can track you down. So what are the best ways to find you online?
Oh, I feel like I'm doing a shout out at the end of the Cool DJ Red Alert show.
Please do.
The best way to find me online is no, just kidding. Hit me on Instagram so I can post. That's what Cool DJ Red Alert says. But no, in all seriousness, you can find me, Jay Mandel, on LinkedIn. The address of the Marketing Accountability Council is accountability.marketing. Yeah, I got the marketing top level domain.
Nice.
And jaymandel.com is where you can find all the services and tools for your brand coach. The best thing you could do, though, is subscribe to the Accountability Council. If you want to participate, there are plenty of calls to action where you can talk to me and we'll talk about what it is that you'd like to do and contribute. And we're looking for people to also contribute and write articles as well. So if you want to do that. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, and if and when the time is right, there's no pressure. Like let's just like meet and figure it out.
Awesome. I hope a lot of folks are intrigued enough to at least reach out or explore. I think you're doing awesome things in the world, Jay, and I derive energy from watching some of what you're doing because I think it is inspirational, and I think I don't know, for me, anybody who's standing for something and then actually standing in it as well is an inspiration to me. So thanks, Jay.
Thank you. And yeah, to know that you're behind me is really, really important to me, and our friendship is really important. So thank you. And I'm really, I'm just happy to watch the same for you. It's awesome. It's mutual respect that we have here.
Absolutely, Jay. Thank you for coming on the DesuckifyWork podcast.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the DesuckifyWork podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, rate, review, subscribe, or consider creating crop circles in the shape of our logo. A huge thanks to Jay for bringing his bold vision and feather-ruffling insights to the show. You can follow Jay on LinkedIn, and he's got a few sites you need to check out as well. jaymandel.com, accountability.marketing, and marketingaccountability.substack.com. If Jay's words resonate with you, consider joining the Marketing Accountability Council to help him turn those words into action. Speaking of action, I highly recommend getting your butt over to my site and my Substack newsletter. Want something even more action-y? Let's set up a free half-hour Desuckified discovery session. Bye, everyone.